Hi, Chris Mc Loone here with Fire Apparatus and Emergency Equipment. Welcome to this episode of our podcast. It's almost like a little bit of a breaking news kind of a podcast this time around. With me is Sam Massa. He's the CEO of HiViz Lighting Incorporated, and I think just about everybody knows Sam. You can always see him bouncing around the trade shows. If you don't see him right away, you can definitely find his vehicles. Or I don't know. Are you still wearing the lit up shoes, Sam, to the trade show?
Yeah, we do. I bring those from time to time. Exactly. Try to be a little bright.
Anyway, so we're here today to talk about a situation that HiViz has found itself in. It's been something that has been recently communicated to the industry, but I wanted to have Sam on so that he could kind of guide us through the situation and how it's going to impact different things, because we could. We don't want to see any more disruptions to the fire apparatus supply chain. So, Sam, if you could just quickly, or however long it takes, just give us a background on the current situation that HiViz is in.
Yeah, perfect. Well, first of all, thank you for having me. I'm really glad to be here, and I've been getting calls from customers and supporters around the industry just of notes of encouragement. So thanks for that, and thanks for helping me share the message. So HiViz we're in a bit of a David and Goliath situation right now. We're a small first responder owned business. We build lights for fire trucks, and for years, we relied on some third party suppliers to build our products. And over the last couple of years, as we saw the government, the Wall Street, like people take interest in the fire truck manufacturing industry and really put a lot of pressure on the supply chain to deliver goods, primarily fire trucks, faster and of higher quality and for less cost, like all the things that we're seeing in the news. We thought, we can do our own part. And as we took an internal look at ourselves, trying to figure out how we solve our part of the problem that was kind of being socialized around the industry, we realized that over the last few years, one of our suppliers had been acquired by a very large publicly traded Australian conglomerate. And when they were acquired, the interests of a public company are different than the interests of a first responder company. And in our business, I'm just focused on, more light, better cost, and lifetime warranty. But when you're increasing margins and driving costs down, there's just differences in business. And so we looked at our business and thought, I can bring some of this manufacturing back to the United States, and I can improve quality, and I can reduce lead times. And so about a year ago, we begun the process of actually making that happen. We bought a new corporate headquarters here in Western North Carolina, a 35,000 square foot manufacturing plant, and we intended to begin bringing some of these things home. And when we sort of begun socializing that around our current supply chain, who are contract builders that make goods to our specifications for us, they responded by retaliating and terminating our supply agreement, refusing to give us our tooling and access to the products that we build and that are necessary for us to continue operating our business. And we've kicked off this big, unfortunately, international legal and now kind of media and political battle over our ability to manufacture lights for first responders here in America, which we're trying to do ultimately to help first responders get their trucks faster. And so it's spiraled. It was really intended to just be a goodwill gesture to help first responders. And what it's turned into is a David and Goliath, large corporate against a small little manufacturer. And now we're battling over the rights that we agreed to, 5 or 10 years ago, before this company that we used to work with was sold. And so we're sort of in a pickle, but we've got all the details that I don't need to bore you guys with on a website called fightforamericaslight.com. You can read it and kind of see the story for yourself there.
So how will that impact your business? What is this situation? How will it impact HiViz?
Yeah, so that's a good question. So we basically, our goods are currently, we've got warehouses in North Carolina and we have a warehouse in Seattle. The Seattle warehouse is being transferred to North Carolina now. We're hoping that those trucks leave tomorrow. Those trucks will support about 6 months of inventory. And so we have 10,000 square feet in this building. We have 12,000 square feet in another building. And then we have another 35,000 square foot facility that are all being filled with inventory that's necessary to deliver goods to fire departments. And about 2 months ago, we were unsure if we would actually be able to continue delivering product because this supplier effectively has used a termination and withholding of our tooling to prevent us from accessing the exit mechanisms that we negotiated. And the purpose, we believe, was just to try and squeeze the business. It's almost like what you've seen kind of in the Senate and that sort of stuff was like maximum pressure. The Senate was saying that these fire truck manufacturers are all the bad guys. I actually don't think the fire truck manufacturers are the ones to blame. I think that it's companies like what we're seeing in our supply chain that are using their leverage and using their size to squeeze companies like HiViz to force terms down to truck builders and customers that are not good for them, but that ultimately do focus on profit and do focus on things other than safety for first responders. And so HiViz has bought all of our inventory for the next 6 months. We've put in our facilities. We've bought a new manufacturing plant. We're moving manufacturing back to North Carolina, and we intend to have that online by the end of the year. And so as you're looking at what does that mean for fire departments and what does that mean for fire apparatus manufacturers? Right now, the fire truck manufacturers that we've been in touch with, and we've been in touch with probably the larger, the ones that make up the more volatile portion of our supply chain, like the ones that take up more of our business. And we work through between 6 months and a year of inventory, and everybody has provided us forecasts. Everyone has provided us forward purchase orders, and we've pre-manufactured or in the process of pre-manufacturing those orders. And then for the truck manufacturers who build less volume, we've basically looked back into our historic sales, and we've pre-manufactured what we have done with those manufacturers in years past, and then added a little bit extra to it. Some of that is inventory, some of that is just manufacturing orders, but all of that's being put in place specifically with the goal of not disrupting supply chain. My biggest concern was that if our current supplier does what they sort of have indicated that their goal is, which is just to continue putting pressure on HiViz to stop our USA manufacturing initiative, that we would not be able to deliver goods to fire truck manufacturers, and that theoretically that could stop the supply of fire trucks next Monday, August 24th. And they've terminated our supply agreement and withheld our tooling. And so the best that we can do is pre-manufacture and then remanufacture our tooling elsewhere so that we can then have our lines up by the end of the year. That's a lot of industry jargon to basically say there's a concern that we couldn't manufacture our goods, and we've backed that up by making sure we have inventory so that any backup plan and backup to the backup can be executed before it impacts fire truck manufacturers.
I wanted to talk about that a little bit too, and as much for my own information. You know, I mean, I'm a fire apparatus manufacturer customer at my own fire station, much like you are at your fire station. And when we go through the specification process, and one of the specs says we want a fire tech brow light, right? Yep. On the for the front. Yep. Just so that, our audience understands, is that something that the manufacturers keep in stock where they just have like I'm going to say a bunch. I don't know how many it will be. Do they keep a stock of, a variety of model number brow lights, or is that something where, the order comes into them and then they send the order to you and you're building to order?
Yeah, that's a great question. So the way that the North American fire apparatus industry works, by and large, when it comes to components like ours, is something called just-in-time manufacturing. And so like when the trucks are scheduled to be coming down the line at the fire truck factory, whichever brand, there's usually a date that it sits that's on their production schedule when it's going to be in a certain cell for electrical product installation. And so the truck manufacturers give us purchase orders based on our lead times, whether that's 6 weeks or it's 26 weeks, it really doesn't matter. They give us the purchase orders at the scheduled lead time. And they say, hey, I need it on like next Thursday, for instance. And so the lighting manufacturers then have to produce and deliver those goods within a certain number of days before or like 0 days after. But we typically have like a 2 or 3 day window that we can land the product at the fire truck manufacturer. But they don't have a ton of space because the truck manufacturers are all focused on manufacturing fire trucks, not inventorying lighting. And so they really have all of their facility space optimized for the manufacturing and assembly of trucks. So our products are just in time delivered to the truck manufacturers, and then they get put on job carts and rolled to the line and installed like within a week's time. And so it's really like, it's a coordinated effort. Candidly, that's why this is such a big concern for us, is because the disruption that's occurring inside of our supply chain does not need to be occurring. This is just one manufacturer who has a goal of increasing their margins and kind of like putting the squeeze on us. But there's no reason other than a contract dispute that we should be having to worry about. Maybe we're going to meet delivery times, maybe we're not. And we've made a ton of our backup plans internally to ensure we can have continuity of operations. But like these sorts of things are just the most ridiculous types of arguments that occur within different corporations, because when I know like fire departments rely on truck manufacturers to deliver their trucks on time, and the government and the fire departments and everyone has said, we need our fire trucks. And I think the fire truck manufacturers have gotten like a lot of heat from a variety of places for not being able to build trucks. And I see them doing an unbelievable job of increasing throughput and focusing on supply chain. I mean, those guys bent over backwards to make sure that we had what we needed to not interrupt their supply so they could deliver trucks to customers. And they've offered things like warehouse space. They've offered things like forward inventory. So they are really putting all the efforts behind it, but there is only so much room. There's only so much they can do. And so they rely on us to be able to do what we can as well.
The first notice I saw of this was on August 19th. Has there been any movement? Has anything changed in your situation since August 19th? Like any kind of, that you can talk about?
Yeah, so I'll share what I can here, and where and it's funny in business, like there's all these non-disclosures. You're not allowed to share everything, and so we're kind of like bound by sharing what we can. So
Sure.
the long story short is that on August 19th, we made some disclosures. We launched a website, this fightforamericaslight.com, and we shared what exists in some court filings and what was brought up on a shareholders like end of year financial report. And HiViz got brought up, and so we really had been like dying to tell our customers for the last 6 months about this supply chain dispute. And we were just bound by a non-disclosure. And because nothing was in the public domain and there had been no filings, we really tried to resolve this amicably before this kind of had to hit the public space. But on the 19th, we broke the story because there are now some filings and it's been brought up in the public. It was run in the Australian Financial Review, which is the largest, like the Wall Street Journal, largest financial paper in Australia. Okay. And so now we can talk about it. And nothing has really changed, candidly, like within the supply chain. It's gotten a lot worse. I think that our counterparty at the other end of this thing is not thrilled that we're talking to folks like you. But I think it's really important that first responders know that when HiViz makes a commitment, we're willing to do absolutely everything, including put a lot of risk into our business by speaking publicly about the situation, and we're doing our best to honor all of the non-disclosures and stuff in the process. But no, we're this counterparty is called Emotive. It's a big publicly traded company, and they have told us that they are not going to rescind the termination, and they intend to cancel our supply agreement on August the 24th. They've told us that they intend to continue supplying to us, but the issue is that the terms that are being proposed will force us to breach our contract with every fire truck manufacturer and could impact supply to first responders, and we won't accept that.
You mentioned August 24th. We've talked about that date a couple times during this, and again, I mean, I'm dancing around just like you're dancing around. But if that happens, if August 24th arrives and the supply agreement is terminated, and you mentioned this before, so this is almost like just a rehash, just to make sure everybody understands.
Yeah.
What happens immediately, and as you've said, and could you just refresh us on? Yeah. Do you have a bit of time to keep building before that impact is really felt across the industry?
Yes. So we have inventory that's necessary for all orders that have been placed. We either have the inventory or we have the production commitments, and we have a commitment that those goods will be produced. And so if we get through the 24th and Emotive does not rescind their termination, then we will still continue shipping orders. We will still continue honoring our warranty. We will still continue all of the things that we do today, but we will be pulling out of our warehouses instead of off of our production lines. And that's basically like a big capacitor in the system. So we'll continue delivering to the truck manufacturers. We'll continue delivering to our end users. We continue local assembly and kitting and that sort of stuff that's necessary, and all of our warranty support. Those remain intact and survive throughout. Naturally, then we begin burning down our inventory. But in the process, we have a factory that we've purchased that we're in the process of renovating and that we'll be bringing online. And we expect to be producing goods in North Carolina by year end and having, we'll probably have about 60% of our production up sometime in Q1 of next year. And so first couple of products end of year, next products in. And so as we're depleting our warehouses in North Carolina, we're spinning up manufacturing so that we can continue producing off of new tools made right here in the United States.
And is that the factory you mentioned before, the 35,000 square foot one that you just built or renovated, or? Yeah,
so it's interesting. We had been contemplating moving some stuff back home, and candidly, I intended to just do like one line at a time. I thought it'd be a really amicable, like, hey, we're going to focus on USA make. Let's do whatever. Take the Guardian or the Browlight or something and bring one product at a time. And when we broke the news that we were even exploring an American manufacturing plant, that fractured our relationship. And when that fractured the relationship, it was like World War III. And so I was surprised. And candidly, like a 35,000 square foot in South Korea, we're like 150,000 square feet. So it's a substantially different sized facility. But we're maintaining. We have other facilities. So instead of having one large manufacturing plant, now we'll be kind of like bifurcating it. And we have a few partners all over the world. Some of them are in the U.S. and some of them are internationally that will also be helping us carry excess capacity while we're transitioning.
One more time, you've mentioned the website a couple of times here, but just one more time, how can fire departments learn more about this situation?
Yeah, the biggest thing you can do to help us is visit fightforamericaslight.com. That tells the story. It tells exactly what's going on between us and this whole situation. If you scroll to the bottom, there's an area where you can contact Congress. We really want to make sure we're involved in the conversation. We've seen all the stuff that's been going on in the news talking about the fire truck manufacturers. And candidly, I just don't think that the fire truck manufacturers are at fault for the situation that's kind of being thrown at them. And I think what we're finding in our supply chain is a legitimate concern that maps to some of the concerns that the Senate was raising. And I really want to tell the story. The problem is I'm bound by non-disclosure and I can't do it unless you guys click support us and contact your Congress people.
Well, perfect. Well, again, my thanks for sitting down. I don't want to take you too much away from him. Yeah. You got a lot going on down there right now, so I don't want to pull you away for too long. But thank you very much for sitting down with me just for a few minutes, just so we can kind of bring everybody up to date. This is the situation. This is the plan. It's not like you're reacting. You've been proactive through the process to ensure that that there's a continuation. That there's continuity. And so, again, just thank you for sitting down. Hopefully on August 24th, we can have another conversation where you go, hey, everything's straightened out and, this is what's happening. Not sure, but definitely as this progresses, I'd like to have you back on again, just so we can kind of keep everybody up to date on what is happening.
Thank you so much. Yeah, and I echo that completely. I will look forward to telling you on the 24th we've resolved it amicably, and I hope that that's the case.
Good deal. All right. Well, Sam, my thanks to you again for joining me today. This has been Chris Mc Loone with Fire Apparatus and Emergency Equipment. Have a good one, everyone, and stay safe. Thanks again, Sam.
See y'all. Yes, sir.